Hi friends, Prepared Suburbanite here. After watching the news for the last 10 days or 2 weeks or so with all the information about the hurricanes and how they devastated the Houston, Texas area, major flooding, and now we've got Irma that's getting ready to hit Florida, and it's going to cause all kinds of devastation down there. So when folks say, oh, the shit isn't going to hit the fan, talk to folks in Houston, talk to folks in Cuba, talk to folks in Miami. The S is ready to hit the fan. These two natural disasters, and however many are going to follow them, are challenges for the prepper community. If you're new to the prepper community, I want to offer you my top 5 tips on how to get ready for the shit hits the fan. So stay tuned. My wife and I were out shopping just a couple of days ago. Stopping here, stopping there. I think she had a dental appointment, and after we got done with that, we stopped to pick up a couple of things at the local grocery store, and I just happened to think, hey, you know, maybe we ought to check and see, pick up a couple extra cases of water just in case, because we're here in North Carolina, just in case Irma gets up here and disrupts things and all that. It'd be nice to have just a couple extra cases. Now, I've already got hundreds of gallons of water in storage, but I thought, yeah, just for convenience. We walked into the local Food Lion supermarket, and there wasn't a bottle of water to be found anywhere. There was some Perrier water. That was about it. It was totally cleaned out. Now, this was just before they announced that the hurricane's path was going to change a little bit and not come directly at North Carolina, that it was going to veer off to the northwest and probably dissipate over Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, somewhere up in there. But that was before. Now, we stopped yesterday at the supermarket, different one, but the same outlet. It's a Food Lion, but a different location. And guess what? They had lots and lots of water. So the immediate panic kind of went away, but I thought it was kind of comical in a sense. And I've looked at a couple of different prepper boards here and there that said, why are people rushing out to buy water 4 and 5 days ahead when they already have running water? They've got containers in their house. Why aren't they filling those things up? Did they fill up the bathtub? If they've taken all their 5-gallon buckets and filled them up so that they can use it to wash dishes or flush toilets, and have they got enough drinking water set aside so that if their water does go out, well, they've got running water right now, so take advantage of it. So we'll get into the top 5 tips. So my first tip, I guess, is to consider for yourself a budget. You know what your income is, you know what your normal expenses are, all those things that we have to pay for in our lives, just so that we can live and try to live somewhat comfortably, and take a look at what your income is and what you're spending your money on. And if you've got extra income over your expenses, then allocate a portion of that to being prepared. And that means whatever you can afford to put aside, whether you're going to stock up on food, whether you're going to stock up on water, whether you're going to learn new skills, whatever you can afford, set aside, call it a budget, and try to work within that budget. If you don't have excess disposable income, then I urge you to first get out of debt as quick as you can. But if that's not possible in the short term, but do have a long-term plan for that, but if it's not possible in the short term, take a look at where you're spending your money. I've worked with people as a personal budget advisor in the past, and it is kind of amazing what folks can spend their money on. Lottery tickets, playing bingo at church, those kinds of things. Well, yeah, that's part of how they normally live their lives, and they get comfortable in a routine where they're playing the lottery a couple of times a week at $5 or $10 a pop, or they're going to the church bingo thing and spending $10, $20 on playing bingo, or they're stopping at Starbucks every morning on the way to work to get a very expensive cup of coffee. Those are the kinds of things that you really have to take a look at and say, no, wait a minute. Can I cut back on those and use that extra $10, $20, $25, $30 a week to set aside so that I can begin stocking up on the food and water and shelter and other necessities that I'm going to need when the shit hits the fan? And don't forget that those folks in Houston just experienced shit hitting the fan. Okay, so you've taken a look at your budget now. You've got a general idea what disposable income you could potentially use to begin your life as a prepper. Take an inventory of what you've got on hand for food and water. Take a real hard look at it. Look at the expiration dates. Look at the condition of the canned goods, the condition of the dry goods, what you've got in your freezer, those kinds of things, and really take a good inventory of what you got. And then realize, okay, if I'm not going to have any power, if I'm not going to have city water available to me anymore, or the power goes out and I've got to deal with all this on my own, what am I really going to need? I would suggest that there are a couple of high priorities for that. And simply stated, we're going to be talking about rice, beans, and dehydrated food. If your plan is to initially get yourself ready so that you can survive for 72 hours up to a week in a natural disaster kind of a situation, I'd go with rice, beans, and dehydrated food packets. A couple of weeks ago, Wise was running a 2-for-1 sale, Wise Dehydrated Foods, and we picked up 2 buckets for the price of 1 of dehydrated food. Dinner entrees, meat entrees, that kind of a thing. And just happened to be at the store just recently, and our local Food Lion has Knorr dehydrated food packets basically for sale. They call them side dishes, rice and beans, Mexicali rice, macaroni and cheese, macaroni and broccoli, cheese and broccoli, those kinds of things in the little packets. They were $1 a piece, 5 for $5. So I picked up 5 the first time, and then I picked up another 10, so we've got an extra 15 of those. That's going to be pretty much get you through mealtime for you and your family for a few days for $15. Now, it's tough to go to McDonald's and buy a meal for 3 or 4 people and get out of there for less than $15. It's almost impossible to do. But you could feed your family with those Knorr dehydrated foods for 3 or 4 days for that kind of a price. 5 for $5, it's a terrific deal. Part of your food storage plan, food acquisition plan has to be the storage. Where are you going to put it? Do you have space in your kitchen pantry to house additional foodstuffs? And if you don't, a lot of people just have a small little cupboard that, you know, fits a half a dozen cans of soup and some canned veggies and a loaf of bread, and that's about all the room they got. So you got to plan for the right kind of storage. Needs to be temperature controlled, needs to be environmentally safe in that respect. You don't want to put it in your attic where it's going to be 150 degrees or 120 degrees in the middle of the summer, or down in your basement where it may drop below freezing in the wintertime. So you've got to have something that's environmentally controlled wherever possible. Upper shelves in your regular clothes closets, in your bedrooms, in your extra rooms, those kinds of things, works pretty well. I've got a friend of mine that lives nearby that has an extra bedroom, and that's his prep room in his apartment. He lives in a two-story apartment. First floor, basically, that's where they live. The master bedroom, living room, dining room, and kitchen's downstairs. Upstairs is their laundry room and extra bedroom, and I think there's a big bathroom upstairs and all that. In that extra bedroom on his second floor, he's built in shelving in the closet, and he has got stored at least 3 months worth of food in that extra clothes closet by just putting in a few extra shelves. He's got it stocked with pasta, he's got it stocked with freeze-dried food, the wise kinds of things in the buckets. So you got to find the right place for it, and if you get really creative, look at your extra little cubby holes, look at places under your bed, extra clothes dressers that you're not using for clothes. You can use those to store your food, that kind of stuff. So be as creative as you can with your food storage plan. What we did is we've got an extra bedroom. There were partial shelves already built into the closet in that bedroom, which we expanded on, and that's where we keep a lot of our canned goods. I mean, and I'm talking about vegetables that we've canned, tomatoes, spaghetti sauce, green beans, carrots, those kinds of things. That's all upstairs in the second bedroom, in that closet on all those shelves. Fills it right up. We've probably got enough to keep us going there for 3 to 6 months just on the canned goods that are in that closet. We've got a 2-car garage, and we've taken one side of that 2-car garage as our storage area. So we went to the local home improvement store, got a bunch of shelvings, units, put them together, the metal ones with the fiberboard shelf panels on it, put those together, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them put up, and in there we've got extra canned goods, we've got the flour, we've got sugar, we've got the water, we've got, you name it, whatever we've stockpiled, that's where it is. It's down there, it's organized. We spent a few extra bucks on making sure that we had first in, first out inventory helpers, boxes and shelving units where you can load the cans in the top and they roll around the back, and when you pull them out of the front, you can pull out the oldest ones first and try to do that. It's worth the extra buck if you can afford it. If not, then just manually rotate your food storage. But you've got to have a plan for how you're going to store it, and it's got to be secure, and it's got to be at least somewhat environmentally controlled. Ran into a problem where down in our garage, it's not heated, directly heated. It gets indirect heat because it's part of the house. But we had, along the exterior wall, I put a couple extra jars of pickles in glass jars. Well, one night in February, got a little too cold for them, and boom, it broke. There was a jar of mustard there in a plastic container, the Golden's mustard in the little squirt bottle, that broke. So it got pretty cold that night, and we're here in North Carolina. So you got to know where you live, what your environmental conditions are in your area. If you're upstate New York, up Michigan, North Dakota, Montana, that kind of a thing, you know how cold it's going to get, and you know that you've got to keep your food stores safe and environmentally controlled. If you live in Florida and Texas, Arizona, those hot places, you've got to be able to make sure that you don't expose your food stores to the excessive heat that can build up in those kinds of situations. Hey, on to tip number 3, water. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier in this conversation some of the challenges that are akin to water storage and all that. But if you've got running water right now and you're getting it from the city reservoir, or you're getting it from your own well, and it's good, clean water, figure out a way to store it. We've got those 5 and 7 gallon water packs, aqua packs, I think they brand name is. And we've got, I don't know, probably 10 of those, 7 gallons filled to the brim. We rotate that water out about every 6 months or so, just to keep it fresh. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but it provides an extra level of comfort, I think, for me and my wife. And we've got probably at any given moment in time 4 to 6 cases of bottled water that you get at the store. And that's there for emergency kind of situations. We generally don't drink the water out of the little plastic bottles unless there really isn't any other way to deal with it. We'll use those plastic water bottles when we go to our bug out location, just to take them along with us and have something there, because there isn't any running water there at the present time. But that's there. Now, you've also got to have, in addition to a storage for water, and you got to consider what you're going to be using your water for, because it goes beyond just drinking. You need it for sanitation too. You need it to keep clean, personal hygiene. You need it to wash your dishes and your pots and pans after you get done cooking, and you're going to need it to flush your toilets. If you're in a grid down situation where there isn't any power and you're on either municipal sewer systems or you've got your own septic, you can still flush the toilet. You just got to replenish the tank water if you're not getting any water coming in from whatever your source is, because there is no power. You can always flush your toilet. So, way in the past, New York City, and I can remember this, I think it was Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia back in the 60s, was indicating during a water crisis shortage in New York City, if it's brown, flush it down. If it's yellow, let it mellow. Well, you can use that same kind of theory to conserve water for your toilet flushing. But you can use rainwater that you've collected off your roof or wherever you can get it, to use that to flush your toilet, and that's probably a better use. If you've got city water available to you, you're going to want to keep that for drinking purposes. If you've got a way to collect surface water or rainwater, or if you've got a pond nearby or a small stream or a creek or a river, whatever, that's the kind of water you really should be using to flush your toilets with. Having a way to purify water, we've got a Berkey water filter. I've got a couple Sawyer mini water filters. I think I've got a Katahdin filter somewhere in one of the bags here and there that we have equipped for our bug out location, or our bug out bags, or our get home bags and all that. But the Berkey is what we use pretty much exclusively to filter drinking water. And we can take rainwater, we can take city water, we can take pond water, we can take just about anything and filter it through that Berkey. Ingenious design with their filters. The Berkey water filter and tank that you get with it, beautiful tanks, stainless steel, upper and a bottom and all that. Really nice, but boy, they are expensive. $250 to $300 for a good-sized unit that you can use for a small family. But if you look around on the internet, you can find do-it-yourself water filtration systems that use the Berkey filters. Now you can get a set of 2 regular Berkey filters, the black ones, for about $107 to $110. 2 5-gallon buckets that you can pick up at Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace Hardware. And there's plans that are out there on YouTube and on the internet about how to drill the right size holes, put the nozzles and the spigots in it and all that, and use the Berkey water filters so that you don't end up spending the extra couple $100 for the beautiful stainless steel tanks that they come in. But keep in mind that you really do need a source of water filtration, water purification, whether you're using a Sawyer water filters, the Katahdins, whether it's Berkey. You've got to have a way to purify and sanitize that water. All right, next up, in number 4, shelter. Chances are, when the S hits the fan, you're going to be at home or nearby your home. In my experience, home is going to be our primary shelter. Whether we've got power, whether the grid's up or down, whether we're anywhere else, we want to be home. We want to be at our homestead, this one right here, because we've got it well equipped. We've got a primary heat source. We've got a secondary heat source. We've got primary power coming in from the municipal power company. And we've got a secondary power source because I've got a Generac generator that can run this whole house for as long as the natural gas will continue to flow through the pipes. So the plan for staying here, bugging in basically, is to have secondaries available. So you got a primary source of heat, you got primary shelter, you got primary water, you've got all that, but you need to have a secondary, and that's really what the shelter equation is really all about. Secondary source to cook your food. If you're using an electric range or an electric stove, you got to have a backup. So pick up a camp stove that comes with propane. Learn how to build a fire. Use your outdoor grill. If you've got an outdoor propane grill or a cooker that uses charcoal, make sure you've got the backup fuel for that just in case you need it, because you may not be able to use your range or your stove, whatever, to cook food, and you really are going to have to at least boil water from time to time so that you've got a nice warm meal, especially if the shit hits the fan in the winter time. So you want to take that into consideration, but always have a secondary source of heat. We've got a fireplace, we've got lots of wood to burn in that fireplace. We can shut down pretty much the rest of the house and keep the rooms that fireplace can keep warm. We can shut that off and we can stay warm in there even on the coldest nights. This is North Carolina. It does not get as cold as it does in upstate New York, Maine, Montana, upstate Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, wherever you want to be. But we can survive that with that fireplace and with the extra firewood that I've got stacked and stored and split and ready to go. Secondary source for cooking. We've got a Coleman cook stove that we bought years ago when we were actively involved in camping and all that. But we've still got that. It works just fine. We take it out every once in a while, a couple times a year, and use it just when we go to our bug out location, for example. We cook breakfast on it, that kind of a thing. So it really is a secondary source for cooking. Runs off propane. Bingo. I've got a gas cooker. I've got a charcoal cooker. So we can cook food, and yeah, there's ups and downs about whether the grid down or the S's hit the fan and all that, whether you want the odors of cooking and all that. Well, that's a whole topic for an entirely different segment on being prepared and home security and all that. But back to the shelter question. You've got to have a second source of heat, second source of power, second source to cook. So plan for those kinds of things in that budget that you're going to prepare for yourself. When you look at your income versus your expenses, take a piece of that every week, every month, and invest it in those secondaries. Okay, fifth and final tip for those new to the prepper community, those new to being a prepper: don't fall victim to replacing skills with gear. I have seen, and I get inundated with ads and advertisements for, you name it, this flashlight, that thing and this knife and this walking stick and this baton and these boots and this jacket and this, you name it. They're trying to sell you something. And all those things, you know, some of them are absolutely imperative to have. They're not an absolute live and die kind of a thing. But having a flashlight, yeah, that's a good investment. Having good warm clothes for the winter time, yeah, that's a good investment. But don't fall victim to the traps, to the commercialization of what the prepper community and the prepper world has become. You've got to understand the basic skills. Can you build a fire without a Bic lighter? Do you know how to use a ferro stick and a striker? Do you have the equipment necessary, the tinder and things like that, so that you could actually build a fire if you had to? Now, we're talking bushcraft kind of skills there a little bit, but if you don't have matches, if you don't have a Bic lighter or they go bad on you, and you need a fire, you're going to wish you knew how to build one using alternative methods. So learn those alternative methods. There's 100 ways to do it. There's books on it. There's YouTube videos on it. There's all kinds of stuff. But learn those kind of skills. Learn how to build a fire. Learn how to cook over an open fire. Learn how to bake using cast iron cookware. Learn how to make bread and practice it. Practice it. Practice it. If you're going to be working with, and you're going to be bugging out, and you've got to work with temporary shelters and all that, learn knot tying. Learn that art. There are about a half a dozen real basic, simple knots that will keep you out of trouble, will secure the things that you need to secure the right way, the proper way, make it easy to tie, make it easy to untie and not tangle, keep taut, all those kinds of things that are very important. Learn how to tie knots. Practice with it. There's books, the Boy Scout manual is a great one for knot tying. You can get your hands on one. The Army's survival manual's got it in there. I think even Dave Canterbury's got a section in his outdoor books on knot tying. So there's a number of resources that are available for those kinds of skills. So don't substitute the latest gear with actually knowing how to use what you've got to use. Use your skills, use your brain. That's what it's there for. This is the Prepared Suburbanite reminding you that there are plenty more than 5 ways to be prepared. So be prepared always. And I'm out for now. See you on the next video.